Lead Girl, the Be Well podcast is your dedicated platform for amplifying the voices of Black women in various roles, whether you're a teacher, school leader, higher educational professional, or educational consultant.
Join us as we honor the stories of remarkable Black women and share insights from our distinctive journeys in education and life.
Tune in as we explore the topics that resonate with us as women, as members of the Black community, and champions in education. Welcome to Lead Girl, the Be Well podcast, where we amplify the voices of Black women in educational leadership.
We are your hosts, Trelane
and Jocelyn.
Happy Sunday, Jocelyn. Here we are again.
Happy Sunday.
Oh my goodness. What a day. What a prep getting ready for this episode.
Tech be teching. Tech be teching.
Tech be teching. Life be lifing. All kinds of stuff. But we are here and so glad about it. I'm really, really excited to have our guest today. And just being able to talk to her in the pre-show. I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. I love this because there's some things about what she does that I really don't have a whole lot of experience with. So I'm really excited to have with us today, Maisha Wilder, the motivator. She has on her name tag.
Yeah, thank you so much. I am excited to be amongst you all again. It's a pleasure to be here, and I hope everyone is doing well. If you're streaming wherever you're from, I'm in the sunshine state of Florida. So hello from Florida.
Awesome. I could use some of that sun right about now up in Boston. Okay. So just saying. All right. I'm going to tell the guests, our audience, a little bit about our guest today. So Maisha Wilder is a transformational speaker, leadership coach, and professional school counselor who's affectionately known as the Human Harmony Hero. Maisha is a dynamic force who turns workplaces into powerhouses of connection and engagement. She boosts morale and sparks results that can't be ignored. With over a decade of experience in education and organizational development, Maisha breaks down complex challenges into bold, actionable steps. Whether she's facilitating dynamic, unforgettable presentations or helping teams level up their collaboration, her impact is undeniable. As a sought-out speaker and author, she challenges others to push past comfort and step boldly into their fullest potential development. She's passionate about helping students find their voice, build confidence, and recognize that they're so much more than a test score. She's also deeply committed to helping educators and systems become more student-centered and empathetic, and I can't wait to dive into this conversation today. Thank you so much for joining us, Maisha.
Again, you are very welcome. It's my pleasure.
Jocelyn, you want to kick us off?
Yeah. Look, we got to kick off with this Human Harmony Hero.
HHH.
So you're known as the Human Harmony Hero.
Yes.
So how do you bring that same sense of connection and energy as a Human Harmony Hero into your, actually, before we even get that, tell us more about this Human Harmony Hero, and then I'm gonna go to that question.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I came up with that phrase because I am a person who values inclusivity. I have been in rooms of thousands of people, 10 people, a stadium full of people, and I still felt alone. And I was like, there's something that has to be done about that. Again, being in Florida, of course, I'm in Central Florida in Disney World and all the amusement parks are there. And there are times where I'm there, my family's there, and we still don't feel connected to anyone because there's so much going on. And so I decided, how can I bring people together so that I can navigate a system or a group of people that I don't know? So what I did was I simply told people my name and I was vulnerable in that moment. So Human Harmony Hero to me just means you accepting the fact that you're a human and you need someone to connect with you so that you can get through some of those scary moments in life, So I take on the hero mindset. Who can I save? Who can I help navigate a world or educational system where they are lost in a classroom, lost in a boardroom, lost in any space that they're in? So Human Harmony Hero comes as a result of my experience.
You said something that really struck me. Like, you've been in rooms with thousands, you've been in a room with a few, and you still feel alone sometimes. And and I think I want to resonate with that, because I want to say I feel the same way often. And just trying to be intentional. I love that the intentionality behind it with the connection piece does make a difference in lowering that level of vulnerability. But I wonder how often we go into spaces where, we may have a lot of connections, but you still feel like you're alone by yourself. And
Yes.
it's
Oh,
wild to me that that is just a wild feeling that I completely connect with and feel often.
mhm.
And I could be the best networker, and and all the things, but that intentionality is something I'm pushing for. But I don't always feel that connection coming back toward me. Like, I have to
Mhm.
insert it, and sometimes that
Yes.
could be draining.
Yeah.
Um,
Very
yeah.
much so.
So
I mean, and if you, especially too, depending on your personality type, right?
Right.
Because like if you're like me, you're naturally an extrovert, but
Mhm.
still in that initial moment, like, okay, who can I possibly connect with? Like that takes a little, it takes a little observation and trying to feel the room or whatever. But it's like, my natural tendency is like I'm going to find someone to connect with because I
Mhm.
don't want that feeling that you just talked about,
Right.
right? That feeling
Right.
of being alone in this all of this space. But I love that. I love that that is like a three-word,
Yeah.
powerful three
Mhm.
words that describes so much about who you are. So I
Thank you
love
so
that
much.
piece. Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
you. Thank you.
yeah, so how do you bring that same sense of connection and energy in your day-to-day work, with your students?
Mhm.
Um, and Um, can you imagine if we're feeling that as adults, like,
Right.
just what our students are going through and learning themselves and identifying and being able to navigate spaces? And so tell us a little bit about that same sense of connection.
Absolutely. I, as a high school counselor, I work primarily with students who have IEPs and 504s. So you're already looking at students who are marginalized or seen with a label. So because I already work with those groups of students, they don't know how to use the voice that we're saying to speak with. So for example, in high school, in elementary school, the caregiver, the parent, they're leading the meetings. They're the ones that are initiating 504 meetings, IEP meetings on through middle school. So when they get to high school, the parent oftentimes drops off, or they kind of sit in the background, and they expect the student to kind of speak for themselves, and they don't know how, because the parent,
Mm,
typically the mom, is leading those meetings, and they know all the information. And so as a person who looks at inclusivity, I am looking at how can I break down the lingo of an IEP meeting, first of
mm,
all.
mhm,
And what is a 504 plan? Why am I having to be pulled out in a small group? My friends are going this direction. Why do I have to have things done differently? So it is about educating the student on how they are made, and it is their uniqueness. I really don't talk to them from a deficit standpoint. It's not what you don't have, it's what you have, but it's just different. And so they appreciate the educational aspect of me breaking down what accommodations are needed in order for them to be successful. And the practical example of that would be a chair with armrest. In
mm,
order for you to sit up straight, other people may not need the armrest, but a person sitting next to me may need the armrest, may need a foot pedal, may need an adjustment on the seat. We are still sitting down, but that accommodation, that extra, those extra accessories is going to help that person look to see what's beyond the chair. So I kind of present it to them in that way.
hmm. I love that example. That is so clear,
Yeah.
right? And especially for students that have IEPs and they may have processing challenges and those kinds of things. It's so real and relevant, right?
Yeah.
And just in terms of that, you talked to me in our pre-talk. You talked about how schools and systems are sometimes not as student centered as they should be, which seems a little odd
Right.
considering what schools are supposed to be, right?
Exactly.
But in terms of your experience, what are some of the challenges that you see most often, and sort of how do you push back and try to create that space for those students that you're working with and the adults too, because
Mhm,
they
mhm.
very much so need similar things.
What I see, Trelane, is teacher burnout. Teachers are tired, and they oftentimes don't want to put in the effort that is needed to make changes in their instruction.
Hmm.
Uh, because oftentimes they will say things like, "Why do I have to do all that?" The
Hmm.
all that is where I, hold up my hand and say, the all that is basic. It's reasonable. It's a reasonable ask.
Hmm.
So changing the mindset of a teacher to look at education from a standpoint of making a meal. If we want to create a meal, i.e., the lesson engaging, edible, digestible, we need to really look at what are we putting into the meal? What's the recipe? You don't want to just give them a microwave lesson and expect the student with an IEP or 504 to be able to digest that properly.
Hmm.
So it's really helping educators to look at, you are the chef, you are the key person to present that lesson in a way that will be, again, digestible for the students in the classroom. You may not like rice, but a student likes rice, so you may need to add rice on the menu.
Hmm.
You may need to add something that you have not been exposed to, and it's okay to do that. So really advocating for students is having conversations with educators about stepping to the side and letting the students' needs lead the lesson, not what you want, not what you think they need. Have you had a conversation? Have you really reviewed their IEP and their accommodations? Do you have any questions about what those needs are, in the curriculum and things of that sort? So it's really about educating the educator.
Hmm. Wow. Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
That's good.
Yeah.
When you talk about educating and educate, I think about myself and how long it took me, I think, to even realize that I really didn't understand how to implement with fidelity, how to support students. I would be given the accommodations, and I feel like schools felt like they did their best job, but like when you're new to this work, and the terminology that's used,
Oh, yes.
oftentimes, like what does that mean, and how does that really support the student? I don't know that gap was ever closed to me in a training. It's something I learned over time and had to grow into as a teacher if I wanted to do what's best for my kids, because I really didn't understand how to be that support for a lot of students. And it wasn't really until my son was diagnosed with autism and just understanding, like, okay, I got to come up with a different approach because this isn't it. And then understanding what his needs were as a parent and what I wanted for other educators to treat my child as, kind of really opened up a grander door. So I wonder what that support looks like for teachers and educating them. Like, are we educating them with fidelity with all the things? Because for me,
Mhm.
it would be like the beginning of the school year. You got to get this done, this done, this done, this done. Here are the new rules. By the way, here are all the IEPs. Are you in from? Are document that you did this, this, and this, and this? But
Right.
like, what does that implementation look like with fidelity? I don't think that was ever really clear to me in a professional learning environment. It was more
That's right.
so
Yeah.
learning as I go. So I guess I
Mhm.
know I'm kind of going off of what we were going here,
No,
but
you're
but
perfect.
Yeah.
I
but
see it
that was
all the
something
time.
important. Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure
Mhm.
the other teachers, leaders who are putting this work in, because we do have so many students, and having an inclusive environment is really important. But like, how are we supporting our teachers with that? And with
That's right.
you being the harmony hero, you know,
Yeah.
what would you
Yes.
suggest
Yeah.
to really help support educating our teachers?
I, Dr. Mack, I was talking with Trelane during our pre-talk. I have a student who is came from Brazil, been in the States probably when school started. You know, she came to the States, so August, and her acclimation to a new country, new classroom, new language, new everything. I felt as if the system is doing her a disservice by just immersing her in that. And so we have a team of ELL, like the ELL staff members, English language learners, the support staff, persons who translate for students in Portuguese, Creole, and Spanish. So my recommendation to make it very practical is look at your roster and the needs of those students and ask yourself, what staff member on campus can help me bridge the gap in that knowledge in that area? So if you have a student with autism, maybe there is a staff person who works with students in that particular unit or in that area that can provide for you information or ways to interact with a student with those behaviors. And so it's oftentimes important for me, and I put the pressure on myself to say, you know what, I need to go to this teacher and introduce him or her to this staff member that they probably do not know on campus, because they're only dealing with the student and the parent. They may not even be aware of the resources that are on campus. Also, I ask my teachers, I want you to have a teacher come in your class, and I want you to sit in the chairs of the students, because many of the accommodations are preferential seating, sitting up front. What does it look like from your vantage point? You're standing up instructing, but you don't know what it looks like from a child's standpoint. If that person in the front is tall, maybe the person behind them is shorter, but they have preferential seating. So the person behind them is like, I can't see. So there needs to be a really more emphasis on what does it look like from the vantage point of the student. Put the students' lenses on before we start to instruct. And I know that's going to take time. I hear it already. Teachers may say, I don't have time, Maisha. When do I have time to do that? We just have to find the time. If we want them to be successful, we must find the time. It's no different from an airport, or a restaurant. They make time for the customer. They put the customer first. I've never heard a chef say, you know what, I didn't have time to cook your meat, well done. You just don't get it. Just no. That's what I ordered. My order says this, and they will take their time to be sure to please the customer. I think that's not that has been removed from education. They just gonna have to understand. They just gonna have to get it this way. That mindset shift, and it's not fair to the student. And I would only just say, put the students' his hat on, students' his glasses on, the students' his shoes on, the jacket. So
it's interesting because we know the pendulum swing is happening in education, right? It's literally going like this, like every 5 seconds, and because what we're really talking about is equity. That's what
right.
we're really talking about. Is really talking about looking at what is it that students need so that they can be successful and be their best selves, right? And when it's as a leader, it's it's hard, and I understand when teachers may say, I don't have time to figure that out, to figure out what that student needs, but not saying those words, right? But just
Right,
you're like,
right.
okay, we'll try this. We're talking about differentiation. We're
Mhm.
talking about, trying to make curriculum and content relevant for students. But I tell my teachers, I say, if you're feeling like you don't have the time to figure out how to do this thing better, I want you to think about the time that you're going to spend trying to fight against what's happening, right? While
Mhm.
you haven't quite figured out exactly how to get to the point with what that student needs,
Right.
right? So like on the back end, if you just take this time now
Mhm.
and figure out what they like, what makes them excited,
Mhm.
are they do they, I mean, do they like, what is a new thing, Labubu or something like
Right.
that, or
Oh my
whatever,
goodness.
like whatever it is, right?
Right.
K-pop music, like I don't
That's
know.
right.
But
Yes.
like you have to figure out some way to hook them. I mean, it
You
is
have
what
to.
it is
It
because
is.
they need that. They need that piece of connection. And you were
Mhm.
just talking about that being a human harmony hero. Like there has to
Mhm.
be some thread of
Absolutely.
connection that you
Absolutely.
can use to get them to that content that they don't even know that they don't want to learn or don't
Right.
like or
That's right.
whatever,
Right.
right? So finding those avenues and getting them what they need is so critical.
Mhm.
And it helps educators be able to get to, finishing the scope and sequence or whatever,
Right. Mhm.
place they want to end up. Um, but yeah, that just kind of just made me think about that.
It's
As I
so
had a teacher
important.
one time, she said, "Well, I don't know if I can take more time um, to teach them these routines and to help them to
Mhm.
learn how I want them to, to do class discussions." And I was like, I said, "Oh, take the time."
Right.
Please take the time,
That's right.
right? You'll be able to fly a whole lot faster
Yep.
when they understand what the expectations are and they understand that you understand who they are.
Mhm.
And she was
Mhm.
like, "Okay, thank you."
Yes.
So I feel like more
Mission.
leaders, we need to
Right.
liberate teachers to
That's right.
actually do what
Yes.
needs to be done.
Oh yeah, they need the time, they need the space, or it may be that they, tap somebody in the game. Hey, Maisha, can you come in and do a lesson on community building or team
Mhm.
building? It doesn't have to come from the teacher.
Exactly.
I've had to go to, when I was in a different high school back in a different state. I would come in periodically in a classroom where the teacher, it was difficult for her to make that connection with students because the class was failing and all of that. So I was like, I'm putting my cape on. That's where the hero shows up, when the disaster is striking. So I said, can I please, 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 please come to your class for the last 5 minutes, because instruction time was, a big thing. I said, all I need was the last 5 minutes. So I had her send me the names of the students. When I went to that classroom, I called their name. I went in and they were like, how does she know my name already? But the teacher gave me the roster ahead of time. So when I called them by their name, they were like, wow, she knows me. We hear our name more than anything else.
Mm,
So I simply walked in and said, all right, Jocelyn, this is what I need you to do. It's something in your psyche that connects with the person when they say
mm,
your name.
that's powerful.
So when I said the students' names, they lit up and I said, this is what I want you guys to do. I want you to write down on a sheet of paper your go-to song. What song gets you, excited? I said, that's all I need. I'll see y'all next week. Came back next week. I had a playlist made for them. And the teacher's looking at me like, what is she doing? Where is this going? I had to get their buy-in. I had to
Mm,
use something that they were interested in. We're giving them vegetables when they don't want veggies.
mm.
They want French fries. They want nuggets. They want Takis. They don't want what we are giving them. They are at the age where they want to lead. They are
Mhm.
in that autonomous phase of their lives. They have heard their mom tell them what to do. The dad, pick up your shoes, brush your teeth, do this. They want to feel independent. So it's not about me, the educator. It's about you all, because you're getting ready to transition from young adulthood to adulthood. So you're going to have to learn how to lead. And I'm going to give you the space to do that, and then kind of tell you, we don't need to listen to that particular song, or we don't need to act this way, but I'm not going to feed them everything.
Mm,
So
mm,
after that, their grades started to go up, and they were like, can we have Miss Wilder come back? And then I started to train the educator, train the teacher.
Okay.
We cannot discipline teachers what we do not model ourselves, period, point blank. So
that's good.
it
Jocelyn, over to you.
Well, I wanted to go back to the permission part because, like,
Yeah.
what you were saying for some of the teachers, sometimes I feel like they don't feel like they have the autonomy to make those decisions, and so having a leader to really encourage, take the time. So I love that you said that, Trelane, as a leader, because sometimes they don't. So I know, like here in Texas, accountability school and a lot of curriculum are adopted and scripted out, and when it's scripted out, it's like, oh, we don't have time to get through the lesson. But I think some of that having the autonomy to do what's best, because at some point you're going to have to do it, right? Like you need to build the relationship. Either you're going to fight for building the systems ahead of time or struggle throughout the year to really support. And it doesn't do a service for you or for the students. And so I just wanted to just bring that back in about our teachers and our leaders, giving them the space to have that autonomy to make those decisions, especially when they're struggling through some of that. Yeah.
Yep.
But I'll move on to our next question. But that, you know, this is probably a topic that's really dear to me, because I think inclusive learning and learning environments are really important for an array of students that we have in so many different ways. But we want to talk about anxiety and pressure for our students today. Like, how do you help them to understand that they're more than just the grade that they've been assigned or the grade that they've received? Because there's so many factors that go in to what a grade is.
This, I hear it every day, all the time. This is, we're in the middle of college application season, where students are applying to college. They're, sitting in front of their computer. They press, the button to show them their score, and they're nervous about what their SAT score is. And so I talk with students a lot about, first of all, understanding that a little bit of anxiety is normal. That normal, just like before you get on the roller coaster, you're like, ooh, but you're excited at the same time. So that is normal. So validating their feelings instead of minimizing it, saying things like, girl, you'll be fine, or don't worry about it. No, you are absolutely right to be scared that you don't know what your test score is. That's normal. Let's breathe together. Let's just take a moment and think about the fact that you did just take a test, or you are getting ready to. And they appreciate that. They appreciate sitting in those moments. And also helping them understand that, a college is looking not just at the score, and you are not the score. What else do you bring to the table besides just the test score? Because the truth of the matter is, you may not perform well on the test. What is, that may very well happen. And if that does happen, what are you involved in? What are you doing now? What else is in your luggage bag besides pajamas? Do you have anything else in there besides just something that you're going to wear for one occasion? And I help them through, giving them options, telling them, hey, are you National Honor Society? Are you doing community service? What are you involved in outside of the school, so that a college or institution can look at the total package and not just one line of the paragraph? What do you bring besides just the test score? And sometimes they have to, think to themselves, I'm not really involved in anything. I just go home and do my work. And so, what you should do is get involved in something. And they're like, you're right. And I have to tell parents that as well, because they harp on grades. What is their grade? I checked their grade last night, and it was this, it was that. And I encourage the parents, what are your children's outlets? What do they do when school's not in session? What are you guys planning during the week-long Thanksgiving break? They're, food giveaways, food drives, and things of that sort. It was like, I didn't think about that. Make it a family affair. That way they understand how to how to function outside of a book, how to function outside of a quiz, a test. There's more to it than more to life than just books and quizzes and tests.
I'm glad you brought up that parent piece because, in high school, I've been in elementary school, and so parents can't help but keep themselves involved in elementary school, right?
Oh
But
yeah, oh yeah. Mhm.
but as the older children get, we tend to see parent engagement and parent involvement, sort of slack off a bit,
It does.
and so what have you found that kind of helps parents to either re-engage or to stay engaged with their children at the high school level? I mean, these are critical times looking at colleges and what their next steps are, if it's college or career or whatever that next step would be.
Mhm.
What are some ways that you help parents to stay engaged, and what type of like parent education maybe do you have to do to help them to be able to do that?
Some of the things that I do is I have them, I ask them, do you have access to their grades and the systems that they use? Many times they don't. They don't know how to log in, where to go. The school website is very intimidating. There are tabs for everything, there move videos and stuff on the home screen. So I literally sit with them and say, okay, let me show you how to log in. And they're like, oh, I didn't realize I had to create a password. I had to know XYZ. So that introduction is very helpful. And also I have the student, usually the student and the parent is in the meeting. I have the student write down a list of their classes and, like what that class is involved in, what requirements are involved in that class. For example, I have a student that takes 3 AP classes, which is going to involve 2 hours or more during study time. So having the parent understand this is the pressure or the plate of the student, and on the parents' plate is work, is, getting them to school on time, picking them up. Both plates are full. So the parent has to understand, instead of presenting to them, all you have to do is go to school. No, ma'am, no, sir. They have to go to school and transition to 7 classes. They have to go to school and think about, will there be a major event on campus? I don't want to say the word, but, will there be something tragic to happen on campus? I have to go to school and get picked on. I have to go to school and be shy about sharing the fact that I don't know the English language clearly. So their plate is just as full as the parents' plate. And parents their eyes are open with that knowledge, because we look at the child with just all they have to do is, when it's not the case.
That's helpful.
I get pushed back on it, but I still say it.
Look, I'm with you on that. I think my mom still tells me all you have to do is.
That's right.
I'm famous for saying your only job
Right.
is to go to school.
Right. It's hard. I feel it.
And it's really so much more than
It
just how we
is.
simplify it. Because if we just remind ourselves when we were in those spaces at that time of our life, like what happened at school was everything. You couldn't even see past the
Oh,
moment,
yes.
you know? And so we have to remind ourselves, like, these kids are where we were at some point in
That's right.
time in our lives. And we really couldn't see, like, what was happening at school was like, that was life. Like, we couldn't see
Everything.
past, especially in high school with all the drama and all the things and
Oh,
the
yes.
social context of it. I couldn't imagine doing it when social media was around. Oh,
Oh,
that just
my
adds
goodness.
just
maximize.
another layer to it.
No, thank you.
Oh, yes.
I'm so glad, yes, that social it was not around
Right.
I know.
during that.
I will be in trouble. It's so
But
true.
yeah, but because you need to think about your digital footprint. You're talking about you
Oh,
had
yeah.
mentioned something before about like when kids or students come and they identify that maybe they're not into different things, but and you were making some suggestions of things that they can find. Like, my background is in technology, so I'm always looking for ways to bring that in because I feel like technology is a vehicle to make a
Oh,
positive
yeah.
impact. But like us teaching our kids and we kind of shaping on how we use social media for good. So if they are
Right.
involved in those things, leveraging them to post about things they're connected to and creating a
Oh, yeah.
digital footprint, which
That's
I think is
correct.
really important because I think a lot of times with all the things, especially in a high school setting, you see all the drama of the things that are happening and the highlights are that. or your get back, or the
Yep.
dismissal of someone else. But
Mhm.
how can we teach them to really leverage that platform as a place to amplify and to
That's
really,
right.
because that stuff, that's your footprint, and you're
Oh yeah.
creating a space for yourself that if
Mhm.
you aren't the top student in class and you're doing this, and so here are some other things you're involved in, that you're connected to, it really creates another story for you naturally without you
Oh
having
yeah.
to force it in the interview.
That's right.
And so, but yeah,
That's
so I definitely want to add that layer in, that parents can, how can we teach our kids to use technology for good?
that's
Um,
good.
you know, my,
Yes.
my
Yes.
child is starting at an early age right now.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, she sees with YouTubers and things like that, and she tries to, model or mock some of the things that they do. But
Mhm.
I'd rather her do that than the other social pieces that can be, positive. And so,
Oh yeah.
anyway, yeah, but I'll
That's
just
so
add that back
important.
in.
I love it. It's so important. I tell the students, whatever you want to do, you ask yourself, what can I do now in order to get there? Most of the time, they want to go into sports, technology, engineering. I have a lot of students that are going into mechanics, working on cars and all of the things related to fixing cars and stuff like that. So I would say to them, the next time you are at home, you ask maybe a cousin or an uncle, hey, if the next time you hear something knocking, can I take a look at it with you? And get that practice and learn how to get involved in their career before they even step into a college or before they land the job. What can you do now to prepare you for the next?
Mm.
You don't want to prepare for next when you get to next.
Right.
You want to prepare now. So
Mhm.
what are you doing now to get there and be better prepared? And I share that with the parents too. I know you're helping them apply for college, but what are you doing as a parent now to help them learn how to be independent? Because I hear you say you do this for them, you do that for them, you do this, you do that. But when they go to college, no one will be doing this and that. They will be. So how are you handing off that independence baton to them? What does that look like? And handing over that trust. And it's hard. I'm a parent. My
Mhm.
children are a little
Mhm.
bit younger. My oldest is 14. So I don't even have that much time. I have 5 more summers with her. So that sounds very small. So I have to trust her. I have to
Wow.
explain some of that. I counted by summers. I probably shouldn't do that. But it's difficult, but it's needed. Cutting that
Mm.
cord
Mhm.
is, I don't even want to see a pair of scissors, because whenever we cut something off, we cringe. We don't want to do it,
Mm.
especially when we are cutting something that has been attached for a long time. It takes much support. And so that's why I'm glad we're talking about this on this platform, because as Black women educators, we need to lean on each other. Hey, my children are young. If your child has graduated, you are approaching empty nest syndrome in that era, call me, help me.
Ah!
I'm crying tears. I don't know what to do. And I don't mind sharing that. A lot of times we don't want to share weakness because we're
Mm.
afraid of
Mm.
being judged. I'm
Oof.
the opposite. I'm going to share when I'm at my lowest, because I know when I'm down, there's somebody above me that's going to help me. Girl, you don't have to be down there. This is what you should do.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I hope
Mhm.
this gives a person the permission. I know we're going to use that word again, to speak when they feel like their voice is going to quiver.
I mean, you so much. We'll have to talk a little bit after the show
Oh,
about some of what you said, but I am going to tap into this motivation piece, because you literally just motivated somebody just now, right? To actually stop that trying to keep it together,
yeah,
and not, reaching out and saying SOS, right?
right. That's
Um
right.
and at those
Waving the
moments,
flag.
and we all have those moments. So my next question for you is, what
Mhm.
is it that keeps you motivated and inspired? Because this work, while it is impactful and necessary, sometimes it is just downright hard.
It is.
How do you
It
do it?
is. What keeps me going, in all honesty, it keeps me young and it keeps me relevant. I tried my best to run from the school system. I took a little break, 3, 4 years. I had a little one. He's 5. So I stayed home a little bit with him. Sorry, he's right there. Sorry. Say, hey, man.
You come into existence, and there he goes.
Right. I spoke him up.
That couldn't have been any better timed.
Right. Yes. He wanted to show you his Superman chest.
Okay. All right. We got it.
It keeps me young working with students. It keeps me motivated and helping others. They keep me on my toes. They say, Miss Wilder, we don't want that. You guys don't have to do all of that. We just want you guys to be present. We don't care about the money you're spending. We don't want the next best thing. We just want you to show up. We come with complexity when all they want is something simple. That's all. That's whether it's 2025 or 1995. When I was in high school, I didn't want all of that. They was planning all this stuff. I just wanted somebody to be with me to say, girl, you got this. You can do it. I'm going to show up to your game. I'm going to go to your football game. I'm going to come and see you walk across the stage, or let me hear that speech before you say it. Let me, go over your college essay with you. Sit with me. Do it with me. They need the sense of belonging. They need that touch, that harmony, that nurturing. We assume that they don't need that. When they grown, they think they know everything. They know they don't know everything. They say that, but they don't. So that's what keeps me there.
That's good. That's good. Love it.
Yeah.
So for someone who's thinking about doing the work that you do in counseling, and I've seen counseling in different shapes in schools. Sometimes the accountability piece takes away from the work that needs to be done to support.
That's real.
But it is, master schedule. Like, okay, I get we want to put our kids in the right space, but some other things that that we can support. So, especially one that wants to support students, and I'm going to go back to inclusive and students with needs, with specific needs, special needs. What advice would you give to them?
I knew that this question was coming, so I said to myself, what analogy can I use? Because y'all know I love analogies. And the one thing that I thought of was puzzles. When we look in that puzzle section, or anything, not even a puzzle, maybe a bike or a bed, a desk, the outside of it has a picture of what it looks like in its fullness, in its wholeness, in its completeness. But the box is going to include the pieces. Things are not going to be attached. We, the purchaser, the educator, is being given a box, a student, and they are in pieces. They are broken. We have to put those things together. So anyone who wants to step into the role of a school counselor needs to first understand you're going to open a box full of pieces. You have to be empathetic. You have to have patience. You have to be able to sit there and look at a manual and look at instructions, look at an IEP and look through it and understand it before you can start helping a student. Do you understand what does this particular item mean? What does this student really need before I start providing services? Let me just put them with this teacher because they have great classroom management. Or they know how to work with this particular student. We are working with students who are broken, who are in pieces, who don't know a lot of things, and we have to handle them with care because the outside is whole. We know what the outcome should be. We know we want them to walk across the stage and have a high GPA or just make it through high school. But that's going to require work. And we have to walk into it understanding that it's going to take work. I want every profession to understand your profession requires work. When I go to get surgery, I don't want my doctor to say, you know what, I came into this field because I just like knives. No. They went into the field because it requires work. It requires studying. It requires understanding my chart. It requires understanding the surgery. It requires understanding staff. As teachers, we have to have the same mentality. It requires work to be an educator. You're going to have to look at videos after you get off work. You're going to have to learn about students of neurodivergence after work. So it's no such thing as I'm not taking work home. I take work home. I'm thinking about the students that are contemplating suicide. I'm asking myself, how can I approach them differently? I am thinking about students who have no voice, who are from other countries. I'm taking that home. I learned a Portuguese phrase that I am proud of. It is como você está. That means, how are you doing? I know no other language, but I had a student who did not speak English at all, and she was in a crisis. And I said, "Oh, I need to figure out a phrase." So the Portuguese speaking person who was not on campus reached out to me and said, "This is how you say, how are you doing?" She and I are like this now. She runs to my office when she's in a crisis simply because I learned a phrase after school. So it requires work. There's no such thing as, after 3:30 when I get off,
that's beautiful.
Probably a hard truth, but
yeah, it does. It does take a lot of work.
It does.
Well, this has been such an amazing conversation. As I said, learning about high school and then guidance. I'm saying guidance, but they don't call it that anymore. I found that out. Professional school counseling. Is definitely very, very, very new. But I would be remiss if I did not let the audience know that you and I had the opportunity to contribute to a book project together, which happened to be published by the other lady in the other box over there.
Yes.
Yes.
Another box. In the box.
Do you have a copy of it near you? By any chance?
Oh, I don't. I do not.
But we both Maisha and I, we contributed to a book called Shattering Stereotypes, Fiercely Forging Forward. So she has a chapter in there and I have a chapter in there, published by Mac Media, aka Dr. Mac. So we have to put that in the notes for folks to get a copy of that. But it has just been such a blessing, and thank you so much for your time and your patience. This was a really rich conversation, and the wisdom and your energy and your heart for this work so much comes through, and your students are so lucky to have you.
Thank you
so lucky
much.
to have you.
Shout out to my students.
Yes. And thank you for reminding us that harmony and empathy and connection aren't just these nice ideas or nice things to say, but they're actually very essential for students and educators to thrive in the work that we do. So I really appreciate that. Jocelyn?
You're very welcome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So we want to thank you all for who joined us this evening to listening to Lead Girl, the Be Well podcast, where we amplify the voices of Black women in educational leadership. Be Well is a nonprofit organization that is open for membership for you to serve and be served. If you are a Black woman in educational leadership, we are looking for you. So become a member or support us by visiting blackwomeneducationleaders.com. And be sure to follow us on and connect with us on social media on X, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
Tune in for upcoming episodes on a variety of topics that are sure to be relevant to your personal and professional growth. We invite and encourage you to give us feedback or request to join our show by emailing us at bewellpodcast@gmail.com or reach out to us on social media at leaders_Black. See you next time. Until then, lead, girl.
Lead, girl. You
lead,
better
girl.
lead, girl. Yes.
Have a great night, everyone.
Bye.
Mommy, you was doing good.